Good morning. Good Saturday morning to everybody, or evening, or afternoon, wherever you happen to be at. Welcome to another live stream. And what kind of mischief we can get into today. Pop in the chat. Let me know where you're at. Let me know you're listening, and we'll get started here shortly. Get some more folks in here. Turn off my monitor so you don't listen to my echo. Let's see here. Let me pull up a couple of things just for the fun of it. See what we got going on in the world. We'll just wait for some more folks to pop in here before we get into the content for the day. Make sure all the stuff is doing what it's supposed to and all that business. For those that are joining, and that looks pretty hot on the audio. Hang on a second here. Make sure my audio is not overdriving everybody. Let's do that. All right. Man, it's still kind of red, isn't it? Mr. Mostly. Oh, that's funny. Mr. Mostly. So while we're just sitting here waiting, if you're not running 2021.5, you should be. And that is the latest version, I believe. And it's actually 21.25.5. So that is, and I know I'm a little behind the curve on telling you all about this because this was released earlier in the month, but it should be on that version. Let's just see what I'm on. I should be on all updated here. Good morning, Johnny. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, David from Pennsylvania. Rasby, good morning. Yeah, I'm all up to date. It's the first time I've streamed that I've actually had everything updated on this on my production anyway. My other one is probably not updated. I'm not as good about updating. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, I'm only 1/10 of a version behind. One minor version. All these are behind. For those that don't know, I run a Raspberry Pi. This is my Raspberry Pi 4 as a kind of a test setup, and then I have my production, which is this other one here. So that's kind of annoying. Let me turn off my other screen because that's bugging. So anyway, we're going to talk about some fun stuff today. I think it's fun. I'm probably a little behind on this one, but I thought it was kind of interesting that I'm seeing it pop up quite a bit lately. So I thought we'd talk about actionable notifications here in a little bit. Good morning, Extreme Ideas. Yeah, that's an interesting name. Interesting screen name. And then hi from sunny Wales, David. By the way, when I pronounce these names, like I look at this, right? Extreme Ideas. I have been known to read the ingredients on a shampoo bottle. Have you ever seen the ingredients on a shampoo bottle or a soap bottle? If you can pronounce the stuff on that, you can pretty much pronounce the stuff on anything. So, well, I take that back. Not anything, most stuff. What are y'all doing this weekend? Anything fun? This is a 3-day weekend for us here where I'm at. Good morning, Jeff from Ohio. And I'll just say that I have a topic I'll talk about today, but as I've said before in my live stream, this is really about answering questions as best I can from y'all. So if you have questions, make sure that you pop those into chat so we can talk about it. And in Discord, if you hit exclamation ask, it's supposed to go into the live stream questions bucket so that it pops out as a question for me to see. The chats are slow enough that I typically don't miss any, but if I don't answer your question, make sure you re-ask it, or you ask it in Discord if you're on Discord, so it pops up there. Jeff Hammer, yes, I keep the name pronouncing easy. That's why Mostlychris, that's pretty easy. Working on sunny Sunday. Well, I appreciate you tuning in, Johnny, while you're working. For whatever you're doing work-wise, I'm glad you're able to keep a stream going. hot in Arizona. You know, speaking of weather, let's pull up the obligatory Grafana chart here. And I'm going to look at the weather. I had my weather station. We had 70-mile-an-hour winds a couple of nights ago, and my rain gauge just stopped recording right in the middle of a massive rainstorm. And so I was not able to get an accurate rain update. But what I did in my EcoWit was I went into the EcoWit itself and I force updated it. I updated it to what one of my neighborhood other weather stations had in it for rain. So if we look at it, this month we've had about 9.6 inches of rain, which is pretty crazy. So 76 here. We're looking at in the mid 80s, which is not very hot for Texas yet, but it is humid, so the heat index is going to be awful. And one other thing, for those of you that watched my EcoWit video, I don't know why I never noticed this, but the EcoWit does not have heat index. It has wind chill. And I thought, well, maybe they're just calling wind chill and heat index or feels like or whatever the same thing, but they are not. I had to actually go recalculate, use my old sensor from my Raspberry Pi setup and calculate using a template the heat index. So that was kind of disappointing. I'm not sure why they don't do heat index on that EcoWit thing. But yeah, I'll show you here. So the heat index is 77 because the humidity is 81%. And I actually calculate this. Oops, that was the wrong button. Ignore that. We don't want to open VirtualBox right now. This is the part of the stream where I just start blabbing about everything, and then we'll get into the details here in a few minutes when everyone gets on. Sensors. And I look for heat index somewhere in here for my weather calculations. And you've all seen this on the video probably. But I take a formula here, and you do the heat index. And actually, it's this one. So I take my outdoor temperature, and heat index is based on temperature and humidity levels. It's actually a different calculation depending on your humidity and your temperature. And I actually calculate it this way and then display it. So anyway, I'm surprised the EcoWit doesn't have that. And if someone knows something else about that, let me know, because I figure the EcoWit of all things should have heat index because it is a device for weather stuff. Let's see. Blah, blah, blah. You did the ask already. Hey, check it out. It worked. Congratulations. I think. No. You have to ask it in Discord directly. YouTube doesn't seem to do anything with this. Can you quickly show how to send notification and respond actions? Even just the code is cool. I think TLJ, you're asking this. This is what we're going to talk about today, actionable notifications. That's what we'll build here in a little bit. But yes, that's what the plan is today. And I'll show the code that I use. Hi, Zappy. 90s all week. Now you're going to make me want to go look at the graph again. Grafana. You know, we send our data. I send my data out to various weather services. But I also keep it locally. So if I look at my temperature over the last 7 days, the max it got was somewhere in the range of, you know what? Look at this. What we're gonna, come on, let me edit it. Well, live TV, can't edit it. Well, anyway, the max is somewhere along the lines of 87 degrees. The heat index was much higher, 88 degrees. So it's been seasonal, but not too hot yet. We'll get it. We'll get there. Unfortunately, we're going to get there. The dew point's what's the killer here. Look at that dew point all week. It's in the 70s to 80s. That's the oppressive range. And then, of course, we had some storms that brought it down, and now it's climbing back up again. So it's just going to be hot and oppressive. Really kind of gross. Welcome to South Central Texas, I guess is where we're at. All right. So I want to talk about actionable notifications today. And as we're talking about that, of course, sprinkle in your questions and your comments. and I will try to answer those. This is not a good, it's not a good beverage this morning. I'm having coffee instead of my usual brain melting energy drink because I forgot to get one. And the coffee is cold coffee, which is fine. I like cold brew, but it's mostly ice in there. Y'all don't care about that at all. All right, I'm stalling. Let's get to it. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to talk about actionable notifications. And first of all, for those that don't know what actionable notifications are, they're a notification that allows you to add buttons on the notification itself, which allows you then to do things. In my example today, I'm going to show a light because, you know, I love the playroom light. Everybody loves that playroom light. I'm going to have the light when it turns on. I'm going to provide a button to turn it off immediately. That's not super useful unless you have a light that is something that you don't leave on normally. For example, you can set up a timer to only send you the notification after the light's been on for X amount of minutes or whatever. And then with that actionable notification, you can turn it off right away. So some caveats here, and they have examples here. A notification is sent whenever motion is detected in your home. You can set a sound alarm button. So they have a button here for sound alarm. Now this is a picture of iOS because you can see it red here. This is not an option for Android at this point, as of the time I read this stuff. Another example, someone rings your doorbell. You can have a live camera stream. You can open an app. So you can open apps. That gets into some advanced stuff, which I won't show today unless we just have time. And then you can have the notification when your garage door opens with an action to open or close the garage. Some caveats here. You must use the defined in advance category-based method for iOS. So those of you running iOS devices, I'm talking Android today. It's pretty similar. I won't be able to demonstrate on an Apple device or iOS device, but it should work okay. I mean, it should follow the same format. And then dynamic actions on Watch OS require having the Watch app installed. So building actionable notifications, and it talks about this. Just a couple of caveats before we get into building anything. Android allows 3 actions. iOS allows, give or take 10 actions. And then it says any more in the system UI for actions begins having scrolling issues. So you can't put all that stuff on there. And here are some of the things. So the Android specific options, there are none for Android. And then for iOS specific actions are all of these. Activation mode. So you can set it to the foreground. Authentication required to do the thing. Destructive, it means that it will be red, which is what we saw in the alarm deal. Behavior is another option. It's text input to prompt for text to return with the event. So you can send something back with the event. I'm guessing this might be handy if you were to send some sort of TTS or something back. You could put the text in there for the TTS. And then the tile to use and the placeholder. So those are things you can do with iOS that you can't do with Android currently. And I don't know the state of affairs with Android's companion app. And by the way, we're talking about companion app stuff here. You have to have the companion app installed. And looking at my deal here, I just have a shortcut to it. So this is the Home Assistant companion app. So you must have the app installed for either iOS or Android. And that's what this is here. You must have it installed for it to work. Now, I send a lot of my stuff with pushover. So using the app for notifications is new for me. But it's certainly something I can do with certain notifications. So let me turn that light off. So anyway, you have to have the app installed. So make sure if you're doing this now, or if you're going to play with it, you install the app from the App Store for your device. All right, what else here? So there are some URI values. To navigate to a front end page, use the format /loveless/ whatever, where tests are defined by your path. So if you wanted to open a camera page on your app, you would navigate to loveless/cameras, for example. And see, it talks about loveless dashboard view versus loveless dashboard is replaced by your dashboard, etc. And then you have Android specific things where you can open apps. So you could actually open an app on your phone with an action. So if something happens, I don't know where I would open Twitter for, unless you have, here's one example. I know some of y'all put notifications for when somebody goes live or live streams, maybe my channel or somebody else's. You could actually get an actionable notification that would give you the ability to open your YouTube app. So then you would click on the YouTube app button or whatever, and it would open it. I don't know that's very useful to me, but it might be from some of y'all. And I know doing this long enough that people have imaginations far greater than mine when it comes to doing this kind of thing. So there will always be a use. I mean, they didn't build this because they were bored. They built this because it seems like it's going to be useful. So this is a useful option. I would just need to figure out what I would do with it. Twitter is probably not something I would open from Home Assistant. Maybe. And then with also, you can trigger the more info panel with a URI. So entity ID is replaced with Sun. So you could open an entity. So one example, maybe if you want to, let's say you get a notification that it's raining outside, or you want to know the rain rate. If the rain rate equals 2 inches an hour or whatever the metric version of that is, you could open the entity ID for your rain rate sensor, and then it would give you the info, I'm guessing. Sun is an example they use here where you could see the state of where the sun is. I just look outside the window. So anyway, there are all kinds of different things you can call with iOS. You can call people. So if you got a notification that the alarm went off, you could automatically have pre-coded here your local emergency number for your not emergency, but like maybe non-emergency number for your responding agency. And then it would call that without you having to look up a phone number in a hurry when there's an alarm going off. And you could open up pages in your browser. So you could tell it to open that. And this is iOS specific stuff. You can open up, even in Android, you can open up, if your URI is a URL, it will open up and ask you whether you want to open your browser or not. So that does work for Android as well. Okay, so that's what the actionable notifications does in the companion apps. So let me just check chats here real quick. So Jeff says we went from 80s to 40s. Good golly. Like recently 40s? I don't know what the climate's like in Ohio, but I thought we were all pretty much done with winter. And for Ohio, that's probably not winter. That's probably like a nice sunny spring day, 40s. Humidex. What is Humidex? Humidex. Wait, that's not what I want. That looks like a commercial. Oops. Oh, I see. So Humidex is Canadian for heat index. How hot the weather feels. And then there's their form. Yep. Oh, the math. Oh, the math. So it doesn't look like, when the temperature is 30 Celsius and you put it 15, the Humidex is 34. And if it remains, yep. And here's the table. So you have to, in the US version of that I have in my template, you have to account for the different temperatures and the different humidity levels, because obviously there's no heat index if it's below a certain temperature. Then it becomes wind chill or whatever. So you don't need to be calculating it at that point. So if it's greater than 112 temperature Fahrenheit, between 80 and 112, and then you do a certain formula. Between 87 and 80, it's another formula, and less than 80 is another formula, and otherwise it's just straight up calculation. I know you can't see the whole thing here, but it's really long. It goes for miles. Look at that. Whew. It's awful. So that's what it requires to get the heat index. I'm surprised it's not part of EcoEd, like I said. But anyway, Humidex, interesting. Where did my chat window go? Chat. Let's see here. And then it's 50s and rainy here all weekend. Huh. So we've had a lot of rain. I mean, we've had more rain than we normally have, I think. Canadian use dew point, US don't. So we do have dew point, Zappy, but I just don't know. Like dew point is measured. Like I'll measure like feels like, and then I have dew point because dew point is a better indication. And I think what I did when winter came around, I took off dew point, and that brings up a good point. You know what? Let's check something here. Let's go into my my device. New firmware. Nope, not going to update it right now. So we have, oh, we do have dew point. And we have feels like, and we have dew point on here. So I wonder if I should be using dew point instead of, well, feels like, see, their feels like is 77, which matches the outdoor temperature. So looking at my outside temperature, which is coming directly from this EcoIt deal, and then I calculate the feels like at 78.7, and they're showing feels like is 77.5. The thing about feels like on the EcoIt, it never seems to change when the temperature goes up. There's no way it's 80% humidity and 70, and the feels like is exactly the same. Although it has to be 80 or higher, I think, for it to start calculating. So maybe that's the case. I'll continue to look at this because I may not have to actually. I mean, I may be able to use feels like, but dew point is also an indicator. Dew point is something I use for measuring the actual feel, and I actually have that on my Grafana, right? I think I showed that. Is my dew point is going to be an indicator of how awful it feels outside. Yeah, so here's dew point, and if I could edit these things, which for some reason I can't this morning. Oh, there it is. It is actually coming. It looks like it's coming from the EcoWet. So this is the EcoWet dew point. So this is how awful it really feels, and this is a truer indication of how it feels outside than actually the heat index, because meteorology. So I might just change that over, and I think maybe I switched it whenever I was going into winter because I didn't need the dew point. It was just too cold for the dew point to register. So there we go. I think dew point is what I should be using. I see use the US calculation. Yeah, so I use the US, but again, I think that maybe as soon as this temperature outside hits 80, it's going to skyrocket here because of that formula, right? 112 to 80 is a certain, and then what is this, 87? Oh, that seems like it's overlapping. 87 to 80, greater than 112 and greater than 80. This is greater than 87. I don't know how to read this anymore. But this is not, this math stuff's hurting my brain. I think I'm going to try to put dew point back in here, and then we'll see if it matches what it feels like outside or what they're reporting. All right, let's build an actionable notification. And let me check Discord too, because I see a little thingy up there. Oh, it's just the chat. Let's build something. So I'm going to do this two ways today. And I know that there have been some other recent videos on using Node-RED, but I want to do both just to be thorough because I'm a big Node-RED person. I really enjoy Node-RED, but I also want to be able to do this in the native automation, which I'm going to show now. So in order to build an actionable notification, we already talked about the fact that you need the companion app installed. And then there's those different caveats. And obviously you can read about all of this on this page. And I will put that in the chat. So this is the notifications thing that I just posted in chat. Hey, Zappy, these live streams go all over the place. So don't worry about diverting from the subject. I like to talk about all things Home Assistant on the live streams. And then my recorded videos are more for very specific topic-based stuff. So I'm happy to jump all over the place. So when y'all ask me questions, it doesn't have to be about what we're talking about today. I find lots of things interesting, and so I like to talk about them on these live streams. Okay, we're not doing that. We're doing this. So I'm going to go with my super shortcut key, hitting C on my keyboard, takes me over to, I'll type automations. And be careful you don't click the reload automations. I'm going to do navigate to automations. I haven't had to reload automations to make things work in a long time, by the way. I'm going to add a new automation, and I'm going to start with an empty automation because that's how I like to do things. I'm going to build this. I'm going to build this kind of with the UI first, and I'm going to go into the YAML mode of these things and see how that shakes out. Because there's, well, I want to see if the YAML mode matches what this is going to look like in the end. But for the sake of the UI, we'll start here. So I'm going to call this AN for actionable notification, turn off Playroom. Now, the first time I built this, I built two automations, one to notify me through the app, the companion app, that I had a thing happen. And then that action or that automation called the other automation, which actually sent or actually called the thing to turn the light off. So that was inefficient of me. So I'm going to build the entire thing into a single automation. I'm going to leave the description out. I'm going to run single mode. There's some discussion on which mode to use for this, but I'm going to run it for single now. So for my trigger, what I want to do, and this is the barest basic simple example you can use, I want to know when a light turns on. I want to receive an actionable notification, and I want to be able to immediately turn the light off from the notification. So we can do that here by using a trigger type. And the trigger type is going to be a state. I'm looking at the state of an entity, and that entity is going to be my Playroom light, which happens to be this one right here. Okay. And it's going to go from off to on. And this is the part where I talk about, and we've had discussions about this, whether we use this or we do a wait state or something else. Wait for trigger, which we actually will use for, let's say, if I want to know it's been on for 10 minutes, whatever the syntax is. I think the syntax is something like this. If it's on for 10 minutes, I want to be notified. Now that I won't use that today because we're not going to wait 10 minutes for it to actually fire. But if you had something turn on and you wanted to know that it was on after X amount of time and get a notification that allows you to immediately turn it off, then this would be one way you could do that. There are other ways. This is one way. So if it turns on, I want to get a notification. So conditions, I'm going to leave blank for now. You could add conditions for whatever you want. This is a standard automation. The action part is where we get into some of the actionable notification stuff. So your trigger and your conditions can all be based on whatever you do for your normal automations. Now, action is where we get into the business of doing things. So I'm going to do essentially three actions on this. And the first action is going to be notification of the companion app. So for that, we're going to do a call service because the service is going to be a notify service. And I'm going to say notify. And you can see under here that notify has a number of different options. In my case, I have pushover. There's always the persistent notification. There's the standard notify, whatever that does. And I guess I don't know what that means. And then you have your notification for your mobile device. My mobile device happens to be called this. If you have more than one device, like say you have you and someone in your immediate household or whatever has a phone and you're both on Home Assistant, you'll have to choose which of the devices get notified, but you can do that. I have a single device, which is just my phone. So I'm going to use my phone to get the or I'm going to send the notification to my phone. And I'm going to choose a message to send on my phone. And give me 1 second here. You're going to watch me live control my house. It's getting cold up here. So let me turn that back up. I was doing some stuff right before the live stream and I was getting hot, so I just turned it up. So let's see. Turn that off. Turn it off. So I'm controlling my Nest stuff here. I'm turning the temperature up a little bit. Set point up so it will stop cooling because I'm getting cold. How's that for a distraction in the middle of the thing? Okay, the message is going to say playroom light on. You can say on, turned on, whatever, on. I'm going to leave title optional. And for the data, this is the part that gets a little more involved in terms of the actionable notification, because now this is the part you're sending a notification with a message, but you also need to send the buttons along with it. So I need to send I'm going to do one action on this one. So the only thing I want to do here is the action, and I'll show you how this looks in YAML. To me, it makes more sense looking at it from the YAML perspective than it does looking at it from here, because I can't see the whole UI at once, but I can see the YAML code all at one time. So the action is going to be turn off light. And this is important, the way you name this, because when you go to, when you're waiting for the button to be pressed, when you do press the button, it has to send that button, or it has to send this action name to the next step. Otherwise, it won't know what to do. So you could have more than one action, more than one button. If you have more than one button, you'll have to make sure that when you call the action, it's calling the right thing. So the action is turn off light, and I do need to give it a name. So I'm going to give it a title. And that title is going to be turn off light. Now I could say turn off playroom light, turn off whatever. I'm just going to say turn off light. That's action number one. So we're sending a notification to our phone, our mobile device, with the companion app installed. And the message will say playroom light on. That'll be the actual notification. And below the notification, you will have a button called turn off light, which is this thing right here. And when you push that, the action that is to be called is called turn off light. Okay. Again, this to me makes more sense with the YAML. So we'll walk through the YAML when I'm done building this through the UI so that maybe it makes more sense to you all. Hello, Mr. Eddie Van Bladel. Welcome to the live stream. We're talking about actionable notifications on our mobile devices or whatever device we have the companion app installed on. Delicious. Not really. Today's drink of choice is cold brew coffee from the refrigerator. Okay, that was the first action. So I'm going to add a second action. And I might be wrong here, but let's see what this looks like. Second action is going to be wait for trigger. And wait for trigger is this automation is going to wait for you to press the button. And the wait for trigger is going to be an event. So the platform or trigger type is an event. And the event type is very specific to what the companion app is doing. The companion app is going to send back what's called a mobile app notification event or action. When you push that button on the mobile app, you will get that notification. You will get, when you push that, it will send it back to this automation, which is waiting for that event, and then it will do the next step. So I'm going to do an event type of mobile, and this is not selectable. You have to type it in. Mobile app notification action. And the event data is important again. So the action for the event data is turn off light. And this is not going to, this trigger is waiting for this action item, turn off light, to be sent to continue with the next action, which is actually to do the thing. And you can limit these things to a specific user. So if you do have multiple phones or whatever devices in your household or in your Home Assistant configuration, you can choose which one of the users is allowed to fire this. And I could see this useful. Let's say an alarm goes off. You don't want somebody accidentally stopping the alarm if they're not around because they pick up their phone and do it. You only want a couple of people or a certain person to be able to cancel the alarm so it doesn't stop, responders or whatever. So that's one option for selecting a user. I'll leave it blank because I don't need a specific user. And then let's pause there for a second. And I've got a couple chats here. Jaja from India, and I've talked to you, I know, in comments. Thanks for commenting in the past video. It's still not the solution. Is it possible to create dummy binary sensor? Excellent. Eddie's answering that for me. And then good morning from Hyderabad. Good morning from my India followers, watchers. It is. I did this math last time. I got it wrong. It's like 8:45, 9:45, 10, 15, hour and a half difference. It might be 8:45. I don't know. But welcome. It's late in the evening over there anyway. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about actionable notifications. And then we'll answer that question here in a minute. So Joe says they all have to have the HA app installed, correct? Yes. Now, if you don't have the app installed, you're not going to see that option for the notification thing up here. It won't give you a choice for the mobile app. The mobile app has to be registered to your Home Assistant instance. It doesn't prevent you from doing this. If you have one device that has the app and nobody else does, that's fine. It'll still work just fine. Major decisions. Hold on a second here. Let me read that chat real quick. What did that say? So Joe, yes, at least one device has to have the app installed, but only one. Haven't made any. No, we're just getting started, Mohan. We're building out our first actionable notification in Home Assistant, or in the UI itself. We'll do a Node-RED one here in a little bit. Oh, hey, so just a side note on my Discord, Ronnie's talking. I don't know if Ronnie's in the live stream, but Johnny's probably seen this as well. He was asking about Tuya and the Tuya integration, and he wasn't able to log in, but he had created an account on SmartLife. But SmartLife and Tuya, wait a minute. Oh yeah, so SmartLife and Tuya are not the same thing. So if you create a SmartLife account, you can't use it to log into your Tuya integration on Home Assistant. I know that's way off topic, but if you're on my Discord, you can read that whole thread. Okay, so where were we here? We're building this. Let me back up here for those that have just joined. So we're creating a actionable notification. I just named it AN turn off Playroom, which is turning off the Playroom light. Let's do that. And we're doing a single a state trigger for the light when the light goes from off to on. We then send a notification via our mobile app on our device. The message being Playroom light on, the data being the actual button that gives you the option to turn it off or do whatever action. In this case, it will be turn off the light. We're waiting now for that button to be pushed, or a button to be pushed. Now there's a timeout. Now what I haven't done is experimented with the timeouts and whether or not this sits indefinitely as an automation and never stops running, which really suck. So that may be something we talk about. So now that we've done this, if you push a button, nothing's going to happen because we need one final action to occur. And I'm going to add the final action, which is what we actually are going to be doing. And for this case, the action is going to be a call service. And this service is going to be switch turn off. In my case, I use those paddle in-wall switches. So all my lights are controlled by switches, not lights themselves. I know we've talked about that quite a bit. If you have a light that's like a light bulb and it's actually a light, you would use light turn off or whatever. But I have all mine are like those in-wall paddle switches. So I'll pick an entity here, which will be again, the Playroom light. And that is, well, once this trigger, wait for trigger, has been satisfied, which would be pushing the button with this action on it, then it will turn the light off. So I'm going to show you now. Now that's the UI, and it's not hard to do. But for me, like I said, it makes more sense to me to look at it in kind of the flow in YAML. If any of you all have done any development work, or your mind just works this way, and that's the way mine does, sometimes it's easier to see it that way. So you can come up here to behind my little chat thing over here, the 3 dots, and you can't see that. Let me move that out of the way. The 3 dots, and there's an edit in visual, which is where we're at now. And then you have the edit in YAML. So click that button there. And now the whole thing you built is going to be built out, or it'll show you how the flow goes. And this is to me the easier way to see this. So think of the UI while I'm talking through this, right? We named it turn off Playroom light. Didn't give it a description, that's optional. The mode is single. The trigger to start the automation is going to be a state change of this entity, which is the Playroom light. That entity has to go from off to on for the automation to start running. There are no conditions. And so the next step would be, once this runs, as soon as this is satisfied, this trigger, it's going to send a notification to the mobile app that you chose, in my case, my phone. The message will be what I typed in there, Playroom light on. And then my data is going to have actions. And this is actually where I'm wrong with this one, right? So what I need to do, this would probably give me an error if I saved it now, but we'll leave it alone for a second here. The data block, because it's free text, you have to be very specific about what to put in there. But in this case, this is what I did do. The data block will be turn off light, or the action will be turn off light, and the actual title of the button, the action you'll see under the alert will be turn off light. This automation will then stop there. It will wait for you to trigger the next event in the automation. And the trigger, to satisfy the trigger, you have to receive, the automation has to receive a mobile app notification action. And that's on the event bus that comes into Home Assistant. Home Assistant has an event bus. It's always listening to things that are going on. And when it sees this mobile app notification action, it will, and it has the action item, turn off light, which we specified up here under this button. Then the next action will occur, which will be to run the service switch turn off. And then the entity ID effects will be the switch room, the Playroom light that we turn on, or the one we got notified about up here. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save it now. And over here behind me on the deal, you'll see the save button. Always go backwards. There's the save button. If I hit the save button now, if I hit the save button, okay, so it actually didn't give me an error. It also didn't enable this. So it's possible for you now to, hold on, this chat thing's just in my way. Give me a second here. So it's possible for you to run this now like this. If I were to run this now, I don't think anything would occur because this wouldn't be satisfied, but we'll try it out anyway. Just because I know someone will try to do this anyway. Currently it's disabled. I just want to enable it anyway as well. So I'm going to enable the automation. I don't know why it started disabled, but it could be because of this little section we have an issue with. Jaja, I see your question. I'll get to that here in a second. But what I want to do is I'm going to show now the phone. I'll just leave it on this screen. It doesn't matter what screen you're on because obviously notifications should just show up on your phone regardless. I'm going to run the actions and we'll see if we get an alert on my phone. And we did. So you can see the little Home Assistant icon. So I did get a notification that the Playroom light was on. And I wish I could highlight with my finger on here. I can't. But you can see where it says Home Assistant Playroom light on. But I didn't get any action buttons. And that's a problem because I should have gotten an action button, right? But I know why. And I do this, I leave these steps in here because when I was playing with this yesterday, I had some issues trying to understand it initially. So don't think that I just come in here and I start doing it and it just works. Now, some things I get pretty easily and some things that take a little longer. But what I figured out yesterday was what I'm about to show you here. So that didn't work. I'm going to cancel that notification and get off the screen for now. What did work, or what happened, was this little section right here. And I'm going to go back to YAML or UI editor mode. And I'm going to fix it in the UI editor first to see if it'll do it right here. What I need to be able to do is put this in the correct hierarchy, tree, whatever you want to call it. So this, you can specify, and this is, Jaja, where I'm about to answer your question. What if you have 2 to 3 actions? You can specify those all under this same section. And the way you do that, and this is like any kind of YAML, and unfortunately, there's no selection here. You have to do this way. You have to type it in. So the first thing I need is actions. This is what it's going to look like in the YAML itself. And you have to follow appropriate spacing. So 2 spaces in, and then a dash. And then this is going to be right under title. And you see how it, like if I mess this up, see how this is unchecked? It's doing some YAML validation as we type. So if it's wrong, it won't allow you to include that. But as soon as I fix it, now you see that it's good. Now that's action 1. And this is a list of things. Like this hyphen denotes a list under the actions. So if you think of it in like a Python or whatever else, whatever, you have a list of things, right? I'm probably using the wrong terminology. But if you wanted a second action, I could do that. Action turn on. I don't know, if the light's going to be turned off. You could, in fact, you could create an automation to just show a state change for the light, either whether it goes on or off. You could build it out to tell you what's going on and then do the appropriate action. If you wanted more than one item here, see how my little box just unchecked itself because I don't have the correct I don't have the correct syntax. So now I could do turn on light, right? You could have 2 different things. Now, if I look at this in the YAML, now that I've done this, it should look the way it's supposed to. Yes, so now you have data, you have actions, because you can have more than one, and each action is its own item here. So this denotes a section in the tree, this hyphen, and this denotes another. And anything under this hyphen applies to this particular action. And where that becomes important, not so much on Android because we don't have a lot of these options, but if you look again over here at iOS specific options, you could take all of these options and you can place them underneath this one action in the tree. So one of them is, and I don't have iOS, but I'm going to put it in here to show you what I'm talking about. Destructive, right? If you wanted to put destructive in here, you could put destructive. This is for iOS only, so it won't do anything on Android. But destructive, and then it's Boolean, so true. You could say true. So this particular button on iOS would turn red because that's what destructive means. You read it here. To color the action's title red, indicating a destructive action. Or in my case, an action that was important, or be careful if you do this kind of thing. I guess that's what they call destructive. Turning off light to me is not destructive. I know I'm being silly now. Okay, so you could, everything that applies to this item under here or under this action, you could just keep building this all out. I'm going to remove these 2 just for the sake of trying this, and then I'll show you what it looks like with 2 buttons. Because right now, if I did an action with turn on light, I don't have a trigger that has the turn on light thing. It wouldn't even do anything. So let me save it now. the enable, disable automation is enabled. I'm going to run this again, and let's look at what the phone shows. And with this, let me do this as well so y'all can see the, I want to move this top part. Nope. How about this? So I want you to see up here that it shows a notification in the notification bar. And let me shrink it just a little bit. My EcoWit has new firmware. Okay, so you can see up here now. So watch what happens when I run the automation. I'm just going to run the actions. Cross your fingers. See, I have a notification up here now. In fact, I have two for some reason. And if I look at it, oh, because it's updating sensors. So now you can see I have playroom light on and I have turn off light. And I could actually turn this off now by pushing that button. So now what I have is my first actionable notification that allows me to do something based on the alert. So if I click the turn off light, it would turn the light off. Now what I want to show you, let's get rid of that alert. Let's go over to, and this is actually running and it should do what it's supposed to now, right? Yeah, right. We all crossed our fingers. So if I go back to my actual Navu Casa thing, let me find the right one. That'll work. And I turn on the playroom. So watch my, I'm going to click this playroom light button. Simulate it. Well, it's going to turn the light on, right? And you should see an alert come up on the phone. Let me turn on my noise. My noise is turned off. My smartwatch went on a rampage at like midnight last night for some reason. It started making everything go nutso on my phone and everything. So I turned the sound off, but it's on now. You probably will not hear the sound, but if you do, great. But I'm going to turn the light on. Here we go. Ready? Light's going to come on. Watch the phone. Already we see a notification on the very top of my phone. If I drag that down, I can see playroom light on, which looks like the automation. Let's look at something here real quick. So I don't know why it shows, I don't have anything that says playroom light turned on. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's just coming from the app or something itself. It's got two lines. I don't know why I've got two lines. But the light's on, and I have now the option that automation is sitting there waiting for me to push the turn off light button. So if I push that turn off light button, and I promise you can't see me push it, but if I push it on here now, that light should go off. And now you see that actionable notification did what it was supposed to. So if I push play again, playroom, turn it on, you'll see again an actionable notification. Again, this is Android, but it's going to be very similar to iOS. The difference is from this automation, I would think, since I don't have an iOS device to test it, is number one, the display will look a little different because it's iOS versus Android. And two, you'll just choose a different notification app thingy. So turn off light and the light's off. And you can see that happen over here. So what happens if we want to add a second action like Jaja's asking? So we can do this two ways. Back over here, I have, now that you have built this out, you can just copy the actions and do another action here. Or if you want to do it in the visual editor, you do the same thing. You're just going to come down here and you're going to create a new, and I did this a minute ago, action, turn on light. Remember, no spaces in the action. You can do that. The title can have that, but not the actual action name. Turn off. Oh, backwards. Sorry. Turn on light. This is just an example of two action buttons. It's not going to do anything because it's not. There's nothing down here to do this with. Now I'm going to save this. And I'm going to look over here in the YAML, and you can see, obviously, it's got both of those. So let's go to the phone. Let's fire off the alert, and let's see if we get two buttons. So over to the phone, and let's look at turning on the light. And we immediately have two We have things, it doesn't update sensors thing. Oh, look, check it out. So that did not work right. We actually have two, we got two alerts. Turn off light and null, and then turn off light. So I've done something wrong in my settings here. So this one should actually be turn on light, doesn't do anything. So if I turn off the light, it still works. And then I have this other one, which would be turn on light, which doesn't work obviously because there's nothing in the path to make that run. Well, that's interesting. This is the part, where we start figuring out what happened, right? So my assumption was we just add a second action in here, and that would be two buttons. Oh, my second T in the title was uppercase. Let's try that out. Let me save it. Thanks, Lucky J. Let's see if that's what the problem was. Run it again. Back to the phone. Back to the phone. And I'm just going to run it this time without turning the light on, just for the fun of it. Okay, I get one notification this time. Ha ha, Lucky J. Winner, 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 chicken dinner. So there it is, right? If you screw this up, it's not going to work. So this is one of those things where if you're a programmer and you forget a semicolon at the end of a line and you spend all day troubleshooting, it's because of that. It's the same thing. It's one little capital T that makes the whole thing mess up. So now you can see we have an option for turning off and turning on the light as actionable items. You have to build out what that's actually going to do. Yeah, and Eddie, it was the capital T. David, everyone got it, right? The capital T in title. Yeah, that was the problem. So what it doesn't do is validate. It validates your syntax, but doesn't validate necessarily the contents of what you have in here. Now, if you were to build this out and you were to mess something up, like put this in the wrong place, so it's no longer in the right. It no longer has the right spacing. If I save this, why is it not letting me do anything with it? Should have a save button. Go back here. My save button's gone. Well, anyway, I was going to try to break it, but I guess I can't break it because I can't save it. Weird. Yeah, we never forget semicolons ever, Johnny, ever. Now, here's another question I have. Something I haven't fully fleshed out yet. Like this wait for trigger. If we go back in here and we edit in Visual Editor, and we put in here, I want to wait under this, where's it at? Trigger. No, I'm sorry, not trigger. Wait for trigger. So I'm going to turn off continue on timeout because I don't want it to do the next step unless I trigger it. If I put in, I'm going to say 10 seconds. I think that's the proper syntax. Save it now. Let me look at it in the YAML because I always like to double check. The timeout is 10 seconds. It's set not to continue after that. What does it do? So let's run this now. I'm going to go over here and fire it from the switch. We're going to watch it on the phone. If you know the answer to this, feel free to let me know. But when I run this now, is that after 10 seconds is the actionable alert. I don't think it likes that because it did it again. It gave me two things here. Like after 10 seconds, does the actionable alert, or does the automation stop running and not accept any input? I don't think the alert is going to go away. My sense is that it will no longer take the input after 10 seconds. And right now, 10 seconds has gone by. What's interesting though is it's created two buttons again. I don't know which one of these is actually the one that's valid now. Unless I saved it wrong again. So it's 10 seconds has definitely gone by. If I do turn off light, let's look over here. The light's on. If I click on turn off light, is it still going to work? No, did not. Let me do the other one because maybe the other one's the real one. It does. So the first one didn't work, which I assume to be the one that's on the trigger state. And the way to test that again is turn the light off and try this one within 10 seconds. So we'll do that. Lights on. I get 2 of these for some reason. We'll figure that in a minute. This one here. Yes. So I get 2. I don't know why I get 2, but if you put in a timeout here, this thing will wait for trigger for 10 seconds. If you don't trigger that within 10 seconds, it will stop. It will not take any more input and go any farther. So that's useful in some cases, I suppose, as well. So you can do that, I think, because what I'm getting now is that weird second action. And before it was a title, capital T on title, but why am I getting it now? That makes no sense. Also, I have no save button on here because I didn't change anything. So I'm just going to refresh this because I don't know why we didn't have the save button. And just look through it one more time and make sure there's not something weird in here that got messed up. So continue on timeout, false, timeout. And that's under the wait for trigger. All right. My esteemed viewers, why is it creating a second alert now that I've done this? I'm going to remove the wait for timeout business and just make sure that I didn't break something else when I was messing around a minute ago. First step in troubleshooting is always undo what you did last and see if that's the reason why it's doing what it did. Okay, so I've saved it now. Let's look at the phone. Wake up phone. Let's see if we get 2 alerts. So run it. I'm just going to run it from here. Run actions. I get 1. Yeah. So when I put in that wait thing under the trigger, then it creates 2 alerts for some reason. I don't quite get that. So maybe we can't use that in this case. Maybe it doesn't know how to deal with that. If you all know, let me know. Let us all know. We'll figure it out. But I'm in my troubleshooting, I'm tempted to do it again and just see if it creates a second alert again. Maybe it was just some sort of weirdness in there. So that's useful in some cases, and you can actually, you can run a trace on this. No traces found. Okay, I lied. Automations have this cool thing to be able to see what's going on in the automation and see how it worked. So triggered manually. So that's the one we just did. So if I run this now, and let's just look at the trace when it's working. I'm just going to trigger it by turning the light on. Okay, the light's on. Refresh. Step details. This is change variables, ID, related. Okay, so trace timeline. Wait for event trigger, 7 seconds later, call service switch turn off. So it's at this point right now where it's waiting for trigger. And I'm going to turn it off. And refresh. So it's still going to sit here forever until I actually do something on the phone. So let's look at the phone. I've got the 2. See, I've got 2 of them again. Turn off. Refresh this. Yeah, this isn't doing anything. But it turned it off, right? Yeah, it's off. 10:39, is that the right time? No. This is when I did it manually. I don't know why it's not showing the one I did when it triggered. Okay, so here 51 seconds later. So it did do all of this. Triggered, call service, notify mobile app. Okay. It did 2 again. And I do I have the wait in there anymore? I think I got rid of the wait. Let's go to the automation config. So I don't have that. I have this continue on timeout still in there. I wonder if something else is going on. So let's do this. Let's do it a couple times. Let me get back to where I was editing this thing and take out the wait. This thing, I don't know what that does. Shouldn't do anything. So let's look at the YAML. And we have the original state. We have these things: title, turn on light, turn off light. Everything looks the way it should. Maybe remove the YAML under the trigger type event in the visual editor. Which one are you talking about? AirPeg UI v2? Remove the YAML under the trigger type event. Not sure which one that is. Trigger type. Oh, yeah, I don't have any YAML here. Okay, I'm back to where I started from, right? Let's just see if it does it again. Oh, what I need my phone. Give me the phone. And let's go ahead and turn on a light. I get 2. Did I just break it? Yep, see, it's doing it twice. So this is where I would go into the trace and see why it's sending me 2 alerts. And I also wonder if I need to go ahead and restart my app. I have heard stories about people doing that. So let me just close everything. Open this back up just to refresh itself. And we'll close it back down. And then I will turn off the light because I get no notification for the light turning off, which is fine. I'll turn on the light now. And I get a single notification with a single action. See, I don't even get my second action now. Turn off the light, and that works. Turn the light back on. Get an action. Turn off light. So it almost seems like it's picking up an old deal on there. So maybe I'm looking at these comments, right? Event data. Well, so are you talking about under the trigger? Because that's how it gets the idea of what to call. This is the trigger type, right? This is what it's looking for under the mobile app notification action. I think that's what you're saying. One has title, one doesn't. You don't have a similar automation anywhere else, or do you? Yeah, I wonder if I had. Let me just make sure I didn't have something else running somewhere. I was playing with this yesterday, but I think I turned it off. I deleted the ones. So let's just see. I wonder why it doesn't find the word play. There it is. So there's one. And I got rid of the one in Node-RED, pretty sure. Oh, I hate how Chrome reloads the tabs when you haven't been in there for a few minutes. That is quite most annoying. Do not like it. I do not like it on a train. I do not like it on a plane. I do not like tabs reloading. Now, I deleted all this. Okay, I'm going home. I deleted all this earlier, and maybe I didn't deploy it because I was in a hurry. So yes, there's my Node-RED thing running. Oh, people. See, this is what happens when you, I mean, this is valid stuff. Like, I'm sure I'm not the first person to have goofed up. I know I'm not. So this is good stuff, because when I mess up, it helps everybody else, right? That's the whole point of this. So Node-RED was also set up to run the automation, which I thought I had gotten rid of. Yeah, I agree with this reload. I tried to turn something off to keep it from reloading, but it still does it. Because I'll have that Grafana stuff up on a tab, and I'll jump over real quick. Instead of showing me the Grafana stuff, it now shows me the list of Grafana dashboards that I have to click to get back to where I was. I really hate it. Okay, so I think I broke it. I think that's better now. Now that I've done that, let's just go in here and see if it's actually running the right way. So I'm going to go over here. Let's pull the phone back up, and let's look and see if it's doing it at all. Because if I don't know which thing gets it first, if Node-RED and this automation were in contention, who knows what it was doing. So I'm going to turn on the light. I should get a notification. Yep, I'm not. That's what I feared. So let's go back into my automations. Y'all saw it work, so I'm not totally an idiot. But I did do something wrong here. I have broken something. So I'm going to go line behind. Okay, if the switch player light is turned off to on, notify mobile app, and it may be again. Let me actually close out this app and make sure that it wasn't stuck on something. I'm going to just turn the light on one more time before I go through all the troubleshooting. It's off now. Let's turn it back on. Notify me. Live stream blues. I got the live stream blues. Are y'all yelling at me yet? I get torn between using Node-RED and built-in automations. I don't know programming at all, so patchwork for me. So David, are you saying it's great? You're the only one that hates the reloads, or you hate the fact that this doesn't work right? Or because you're not the only one. I'm not the only one that's broken it. We've completely broken it. Project complete. That's my favorite. I like that one. It's not broken. It's just resting. Okay, I'm going to go through now. Okay, it's supposed to tell me. I'm going to get rid of the second one, just to get rid of like a variable that could be an issue. Oh, you know what, too? It's not this thing. Let me get rid of this line, because I don't know if it's doing something weird with that. And let's save it now. Let's run it and just see if I get anything at all. Run the actions. There, okay. Playroom light turned on, turn light off. Boom. Now let's do it from the actual dashboard. So let's turn the light on. There's a notification. Watch. I only get one. Sweet. Watch my light. Watch me push the button. Push the button. Light goes off. Okay, we're back to working state. One more time, just for funsies. Boom. Boom. And boom. That is working. That is a... Before I go any farther, for those that are about to tune out because I screwed all this up, that is a working state, right? So now we have, based on this automation, a single action to turn the light off. Apparently, the wait for trigger thing, is problematic. I don't know why it was doing what it was. We should be able to do the secondary button, though. So I'm just going to put it back. Turn on light. Title with a lowercase t. Turn on light. And we should get this. Now it's not competing with Node-RED. Save it. And if I go over here and turn the light on, let's watch the phone. Playroom light on. Okay, 2 buttons, right? 2 buttons? All right, 2 buttons. So we got our 2 buttons. Turn the light off. Light goes off. Perfect. One more time, just to make sure it wasn't an accident. Okay, there's notification. Lights on, turn light off. Uh-oh. Oh, I didn't put the button. Turn light off. Uh-oh. It was slow. Okay, so the phone was doing, that was a phone issue. Well, one more time because of that, because I'm not confident. So we have two buttons, turn off the light, and the light goes off. Okay, so that last one was probably a phone issue or communication issue with the app. Okay, so that is working the way it's supposed to in a UI at the most basic of basicness. So that works great. Continue on timeout when there's no timeout anymore might break something. Yeah, I don't. True. And then when I make an error, I'm scratching my head. Yeah, I guarantee you that all of y'all that watch when you watch other people's live streams, there are probably very few cases, especially when it's brand new technology. This isn't new, but it's the first time I played with it. I guarantee you they're going through stuff like this, and I am okay to show my vulnerability in terms of this because this is the way it is. If it's discouraging, I think personally, to watch somebody build something out and pretend like it worked the first time and was great and everything else. So for me, it's more beneficial to actually show whenever I break something, so everybody knows that I'm human and this is going to happen. When you look at my dashboard here, you see all this stuff, but I've mentioned this before. This didn't happen overnight. It took me time to build this out. One of the big things I have an issue with now, just as a side note, with Z-Wave JS stuff that I play with, I have a full-on Z-Wave network. I have a lot of stuff in my Z-Wave network. I use the Z-Wave JS MQTT thingy. Dark theme, please. And these are all the devices I have in here, right? See, I don't even know what this one is. I just added this one recently and I forgot what it was. Oh, that one. I have this thing, by the way, just as a side note. This is some sort of scene controller I found in a box. I was messing with. It's a Jasco Z-Wave model 45600. I tried to use this as like a scene controller, and I put some stuff in here and I push a button and it like almost destroyed my network. So be careful. This is supposed to be a backup scene controller, supposedly. I bought it years and years ago and I thought I would use it as like I want to just turn these things on and off and just run scenes with it, not take over as a secondary controller. And I think it tried to take over. That really goofed up my network. So that's what this is. Anyway, the point is, what I was getting at with all this discussion is when I update Z-Wave JS now, I have to restart my Home Assistant instance for it to work. That's how the last 3 updates I've done. So the reason I mention that is not everything works all the time, every time. If I don't mess with it, and typically if you're in any kind of software development or infrastructure management or anything like that, everything works great until somebody puts hands on it or updates it or upgrades it or whatever. And then, there's things that happen you don't know about. In the case of Z-Wave, for me, every time now I have to restart my Home Assistant instance for what I'm assuming is the integration part to work with Z-Wave JS. I don't know what the issue is. To be fair, I've not spent any time investigating it. When I update, I'm usually doing something else. I'll do an update and then I'll come back and all my devices are not showing up in Home Assistant. They are online in the add-on itself, that dashboard I just showed you. Everything's online and operating. It's just not talking to Home Assistant. So restarting Home Assistant itself does something to the integration, which then allows it to work like it's supposed to. So all of that to say, I have problems like some of y'all have problems. And I've done this long enough that I know where to start looking. And I think that gets the frustration part lower for me and maybe higher for others who are new to this. It's frustrating when something breaks and you don't really know where to go at all. So as you learn over time, you'll learn how to troubleshoot some of this. And that was a lot of blah, 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 right? Failure is the best way to learn. Absolutely. Unless you have a acceptance factor you're trying to maintain. What happened the other day? Something happened the other day and none of my stuff worked, but my wife has been a trooper, and either she doesn't notice too much or she just ignores it. And so, you know, you got to love her for that, because I break things sometimes. Oh, this will be handy. Thanks for doing this. I have a Shelly light for the dog yard. I'll blow this up so you can read it. For the dog yard that I constantly forget to turn off. Yeah, you could do John, you could do an automation. I don't know. Yeah, you could, well, the alerting part, you could have it, and this is the part where it probably would work fine in the actual automation, is if you go here and you say if it's been on for whatever, however much time you think the dog needs to see outside, then you could actually start this whole thing after X amount of minutes or whatever. So let's say 15 minutes is enough time for the dog to do its business. If that light's on after 15 minutes, then it sends you this whole string of things, and then you have the instant turn off button from your action items. So that's a good use case for that. And then let's see, there was another question here. Have you ever had Node-RED not show the status of your nodes? For instance, service call time. Can't figure out why my nodes aren't giving that info anymore. No, but I'm not sure what service call time is. What's a node Raspberry that shows up in, and I'll take a look at it. Okay, that was an actionable notification. Now there is, if you look at this this page here, what I'm not going to get into today is a potential for overlapping notifications. If you get a lot of notifications at once in your Home Assistant app, your companion app, you're going to probably want to do something like the context ID part of this. Now, I messed with this yesterday, and I understand what this actually means. It doesn't show the whole, this isn't wide enough to show the whole thing. But what this means is every time you get, in fact, let me just show you that. We're gonna get off the beaten path here for a second. We're gonna go to Developer Tools. I'm gonna look at that event bus. By the way, if you ever want to look and see what the event bus shows for something you're messing with, for example, the mobile app notification action, I can type in under Developer Tools, Events, Mobile App Notification Action, and start listening. And you got to make sure you spelled that right. If I fire off this alert now, and I hit the playroom light here, and it goes on my phone, and I hit the button. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the, I should have an alert, which I do. So I'm going to hit the turn off light button. You'll notice on the left hand over here side of the screen that I just got an event on this event bus. And this context ID is specific to this particular action. So what they're talking about in here, which I'm not currently using in this demonstration, is you're going to create a variable. And this is the part that tripped me up. And I'm not an expert on everything. But when I tried to put these variables in, I could not figure out where they went. They would not work no matter how hard I tried to get them in there. So somebody can tell me where I'm supposed to throw. It says inside an automation actions or script sequence. So I would assume in the automations that I would put that in here. But what it basically means is you're creating a variable based on the action open with the context ID. And the only time that this thing will actually work is if you are providing the action open with the context ID you want to send with it. So it's basically an identification that says that this context ID belongs to this event that you sent from your phone. And this is what we're going to use to make sure that we're not doing overlapping events. So if you had another turn off light from a different light fire at the same time, and you hit turn off light and it was named the same thing, it would potentially, you would have some sort of contention issue, or it would do both or whatever. By using the context ID, you're actually able to differentiate which thing you actually pressed on from your phone. And then under actionable notifications, you would do the action here. See where it says action open, consists of the word open plus all of this context ID information. So when you call action open as a push button here, it would reference it would reference this with the context ID. I hope that makes sense to you. It's a way to specify the exact button you pushed on your phone if you have more than one of those at the same time. But you can read, and I posted this in the chat, you can read over all of this stuff here and how to do that. It's just the whole variable thing I didn't do because I haven't figured that out. I don't know where the variables go, and I know it should be simple. And looking at the automation stuff here, looking at that automation, there's no place to set variables in here either that or I'm missing it. It's supposed to be under the action section. So if I were to add an action and set variables, I don't know if that's something I would do here, in here somewhere. Like, I don't know what this, I mean, that's not right either, right? So that's what I'm saying. I don't really know where to put that. So that is something that's more advanced, and you can certainly do that. I'm going to get rid of this turn on while I'm at it because I'm not doing that. Save it. All right, before we run out of time, I want to jump into Node-RED. Let me look at Raspby's question real quick. Probably how I'll do it, yeah. Good, excellent, John. I'm glad to hear. There's another, see, that's what I'm saying. There's so many examples of ways to do things. That's pretty awesome. Like when a service call was called, it will give you that red or green. Yeah, let me show you that because that's actually working on mine. So I'm in the tab reload. Thanks, Chrome. I preset these tabs so I can just jump into it so y'all don't have to wait for the tab to load. And then this. So I'm going to go to my playground tab, playground flow, and I'm going to build this out. It's very similar to what we just did. You just have to have the right, what's the word I'm looking for? And I hope I didn't delete it. Let me pull this over here somewhere. Okay, good. You have to have the right syntax when you're building this out. So this is going to be very similar to what we did before. So what I'm going to do is call a service, or I'm going to get a event state. So we're going to look at the status of our playroom light. So playroom light, and this will be on because I'm just not going to proceed past the end of this node unless it's actually on. So I'm setting a condition right in my node right here. And I got to choose the node, of course, or the entity. So if the playroom light is on, and again, you can set the time here. So I could say 5 minutes. In case of the dog example, you could do whatever here. If it's on, then it will proceed. You can do all these other things here, right? Where it says previous state doesn't exist. You can ignore the state for all these reasons. And then you can output on connect. We won't go into all of this. Output on connect will do when you deploy it or Home Assistant restarts, it will send that out and you can get an alert if the light's on if Home Assistant restarts. It will also ignore the state currently is defaulted to current state equals previous state. So it won't send you anything if it's where it was before the restart. So first things first there, playroom light status, we're going to get the state changes. So anytime the state changes, it will update that. And then I'm going to do an app notify playroom light on. So this is where I'm going to send my notification stuff over. So I'm going to call a call service node. And this is where the syntax makes difference. So I'm going to do app or actionable notify. So AN again, notify. This is just an arbitrary title, PL light on. And my domain is going to be notify. It's going to be notify. And the service is going to be this mobile app, whatever your mobile app is. So you have to call the notification for the mobile app. And you don't need an entity ID in this case because you're using this service to call the mobile app. And then for the syntax, you're going to have a very specific JSON syntax. And for that, I click those three dots and I put in, I just stole this from somebody else. So I'm going to modify this, right? Did you feed the cats? No, we don't want that message. My message is going to be Playroom light turned on. This is going to be just like the other example we did. Playroom light turned on. And then title, it can be the same thing. The title matters on certain things like smartwatches. Some of those will display, and some devices will display the title versus the message, and it just really depends. And so then you have your data, just like we did before with your actions. So here's 2 actions as an example. I'm just going to drop it down to 1. So I'm going to get rid of all of that block of code. And if you mess up this code, you should see an X over here. So if I remove a comma, obviously, if you know programming, typically the error is going to be the line before the error. So here it shows line 4 has an issue, but that's not the case because the issue is actually up here. If you don't have any red X's, chances are you're in a good spot. So walking through this, it's going to send that message, Playroom light turned on. The data is going to be your actions, and the action is going to be, I don't want cat yes. It's going to be turn, I'll use the same one I did before, turn off light. And the title will be turn off light. Now you could say just turn off because you're getting an alert for a light. So saying turn off light is redundant. So let's just say turn off, right? I'm looking to see. I'm looking at Raspberry's comments. All right, so there we are with that one. And that's done. It should bring you back over here. There's nothing else here to put on it. And then I'm going to connect this. This is the state is true, right? So we set that true section in here. If it's on, it will be true. Otherwise, it'll be false. So I'm going to say true, and it will fire this off. This is kind of my 2-step thing I did when I originally built the automation. So all this is doing is it's generating the alert and sending it over with action buttons. So this is just the action button section of it. I'm going to create a second flow in here that's actually going to handle the return of the action. So I'm going to come here to events, and I'm going to listen on that event bus. Now remember, when you're listening to the event bus, especially on Node-RED, you're listening to every single thing that comes across that event bus, and there are a lot of them. So if you leave the event type empty, you may overload the WebSocket. So don't ever leave this event type empty unless you have a very good reason. And everyone has their reasons, but I would say don't do it. So I'm only going to listen for mobile. The heck's it called again? I forgot. Mobile app notification action. I'm just going to copy this because I'm lazy. I'll put in mobile app notification action. And then I want the rest of this to be exactly the way it is. So my message payload's event data, message topic is output event data. And I'm done with this, except I want a name. I'm going to call this turn off light, turn off button pressed. So this is if someone pressed that turn off button from the notification. Now what we have to do is, let's assume we don't know what to do next, right? I know what to do next. Let's assume we need to know where the thing is we want to look for within the output of this node right here. So I always use a debug node for that. And I'm going to attach this debug node directly to the output of this button thing. I'm going to deploy this. And the Playroom light, when the Playroom light gets turned on, it's going to send this notification. And I'm going to click this little debug thing over here too. Clear it out. And whenever I push the button, it's going to send a message payload, the message payload into debug, and that will show up over here. So let me do that now. Let's go over to the phone, and I'm going to, let me get rid of this again on here too. Restream chat. Bye-bye. All right, so the phone, there's garage doors open. Okay, I'm going to turn on the light. Okay, the light is on. And this Raspberry, I think, is what you're talking about. So I have it on at this time. Oh, you know what else? I have this automation on. I need to disable this automation. So let's clear this out and do it again. So I've turned off the other automation because I'm doing this in Node-RED now. But you do see this, right? You see that Raspberry, that it's on at May 30th, and then it notifies the phone. It sent the notification. So you should, oh, you can't see that. You can, sorry. It's on here. You see the little thing, and then it notifies the phone at this same time. Okay, now I'm going to do it again because I had the other automation running. And let's go to the phone. I'm just going to turn the light on, and we're going to watch the button get pressed here. And now I can move this out of the way. Yep, I'll leave it over here because we're going to look at the debug. We'll get rid of that. Okay, so I'm going to turn the light on. Here we go. Light's going on or off, and then back on again. And then we'll go back over here. You'll see fired May 30th, 11:12, and then it notified, right? So I see the notification. So I'm going to push the button. We'll get some debug stuff over here on the right. All right, so I turned it off. Let me get rid of the phone for now. And now you can see that the event type was a mobile app notification action. And then what I want is the object here. And what I need to know is the action that occurred. So this right here. Because what I'm going to look for is that action to be showing up in this thing here. And the way you get that path is you go over here, and you can barely see it here, but this is a copy path button. If you click on copy path, it'll tell you path copied. Now, the output of this is going to output all of this stuff. I only care about this action section right now. And for that, I'm going to do a switch device to interpret that output. And I need to know where that message is in this path. So I'm just going to erase that, and I'm going to paste in the path. So the message.payload.event.action. So message.payload, which is this whole thing, event, which is this block right here, action, which is this thing right here. It's going to look for that. If it equals, two equal signs, double equals, if it equals turn off light, it's going to, and you can, let's just add another one. Let's just say turn on light, right? This is actually easier here than in the other automation if you're going to do multiple buttons. If it equals turn on light, it'll go out path, turn off, it'll go out path 1. If it equals turn on, it'll go out path 2. And I'm going to give it a name, and I'll just call it action switch. So whichever action we determine we send. And this is actually a wrong name. So let's say button pressed. Action button pressed. Makes more sense. So the action button is pressed. If, and it will come down here, it'll send it to the message or the debug payload or the debug node too, but it'll also come to the switch. So we have option 1, turn off light. Option 2 or path 2, turn on light. Now remember, whenever we created this announcement thingy, we told it action 1 is turn off light. That is the action being sent, and that is the action we saw over here. So when I press that button, that's what comes over here. This is listening on the app or the action, sorry, this is listening on the app notification bus for any time you press a button or do something with the app. And if it hears that or sees that specific turn off light, it's going to go out path 1 here. So we can now take this debug. Oops, I want that back. Detach it from here. And we will attach it to this one just as a debug. And delete all this stuff. Deploy it. You always have to deploy. Now if I turn on the light, oops, if I turn on the light, I gotta turn it off again, turn on the light, and I come back over here to Node-RED, you'll see that this happened, this happened, this happened. And then the mobile, I haven't pushed a button, so I have to push a button. You just watch that. I'll just do it real quick. You know what it looks like. Turn off. Okay, so now you see that this happened, and it picked this event type up, went out here. So it doesn't matter what's in here. It's sending the whole payload. Right now, the way we have it set up in our simplistic settings, Oh, cool, Johnny. I'll get back to that in a second. You'll see that it sends a whole payload out. We don't care really, because all we're going to do is if this path is valid, it's going to trigger this path. So what I want to do when I trigger that path is I want to call a service, and that service for this one happens to be turn off light. And you can, this one you probably do want to say playroom because it's going to be specific. Now you can templatize all this stuff too, which I'm not going to show today. You can actually, like you could say turn off playroom light in your action. And then you could say, you could bring this in and use variables inside here and determine which entity to actually action on and do it one time. But I'm just going to do it the simple way today. This is call, this is switch turn off. Again, I'm using switches, paddle switches. Actually, it's domain switch and then turn off. For my lights, I'm using those paddle switches. And the entity ID, again, is going to be playroom. And no data is required. And then we can just save that. Did we name it? Yep. Let me get rid of this debug stuff because it's too much. Whatever, I'll just leave it for now. So now what's going to happen is you'll, if the playroom light changes status, you'll get a notification. That's this whole thing right here, one deal. If you push the action button and it's the action button that says turn light off, it will come over here and turn the light off. So let's just run through that real quick. Let me bring the phone back up. I'm going to hide my face this time. Oh no. Hold on. I can't be hiding. Boom. Okay. All of this is here. We're going to deploy it first. So I hit the deploy button, which is now hidden behind my phone thing. So we'll go over here, turn off the light again. So the light's off. Now I'll turn it on. Should get an action notification, actionable notification, which we see up top. Notice it says turn off now instead of turn off light. That's because we named it that way, right? That's coming from Node-RED. So turn off, then turn the light off. You can see the light went off. And if we go back over in Node-RED, you can see the state changed to off because, and it's a red box, a red square, because this means that it's not going to go any farther than this. And then you have the notification that went to the phone. You saw that. Then I pushed the button. The button was light turn off because that's what I have specified in this box here. And then here, it followed the path, turn off light, and actually switch turned off at this time. So all of that worked exactly like it was supposed to, and it was quite simple. Now you can start adding things in like timers and all kinds of stuff to get really fancy with it, but that is not something that I'm going to demonstrate today. In fact, we've got about 10 more minutes today because we're going to have a little bit shorter than 2-hour stream just for the sake of family stuff today. But I do want to do one of this thing where we talked about these little things are what Raspbi's talking about, where these are not showing up underneath here. And Johnny says, click the button to the right to deploy. Oops, I overwrote my thing. Click settings, make sure show node status is checked. So settings, make sure show node status. And this is what we're talking about. So Raspbi, do you have this checked on here? Because if I turn that off, all of that goes away. If I turn it back on, wherever that is, show node status, close. All my node statuses come back. So check that, Raspbi, and make sure that's done. Thank you, Johnny, for pointing that out. That would have taken me some time to figure that one out. So in a nutshell, or in a recap, what we've done today is we've built a couple of actionable notifications. It's the simplest of actionable notifications, turning a light off after it's been turned on. And that in the UI, let me go back over to automations. We built one here, and you don't run them both at the same time. We've already figured that out, right? So here is the automation directly in Home Assistant, and I'll just look at the YAML. Trigger state, conditions, actions, message buttons, triggers. All this is built into one automation. And then also I did the same thing in Node-RED, where we built the same thing, where we have a state change to on, sends a notification to the phone. The phone has the button itself, again, has the action of turn off light. This particular button or node listens for all mobile app notification actions. It sends it on to the switch. This switch is looking for this particular payload, event action, and if it equals turn off light or on light, if it equals off light, it's going to send it out path 1. And when it goes out path 1, it will execute the service called switch turn off, which then turns off the light. Now you can adapt this to any entities you want to adapt this to. Again, for me, visually, I can see exactly what's happening. You can do the same thing in here. If I go back to this and I look at show trace, it's off. I assume there's no traces because it's turned off. If I were to run this, you'd be able to trace through that same thing you can with Node-RED. To me, it's a little easier visually to do this. But here's the flow here. So with that, if y'all have any other questions or anything, I'll be happy to answer those. If I missed any questions, make sure you let me know right now. But that was kind of the, oh, it is checked. Well, that's not good. So let's go in the settings real quick, looking at the same issue that Raspbi's asking about. I don't know that would be any other thing that would turn that off. I mean, let's go to our friends here. Oh, I always ask my questions too. Node status, not showing Node-RED. I think you'll find it's issue in that release reported Nick. Okay, well, that's something to do with a specific node, it looks like. Okay, that's not helpful. This is kind of where the path I'd have to go down now. Oh, look. This was 3 years ago. Oh, wait. So look, did you do this, Raspberry? Because I have not done this yet. I have a button up here for updating Home Assistant nodes, and I have not done that yet because when I click it, you can see what it says here. It's going to update all Home Assistant nodes of current schema. It's not required for the nodes to function. Nodes with yellow will have to be updated before they can be edited. Okay. It is recommended to back up your flows before doing an update. I haven't done that yet, but I'm wondering if that has something to do with it. But this is 3 years ago, and I mean, obviously we've updated multiple times since then, so I don't know if that's really the issue or not. I run it as the plugin in HA, not separate. Yeah, that's and that's how I'm running it too. I've got it installed here as I'm running this one. Let me just see what we're running here. I'm on version 9.13. Yeah, there's no log entry. But anyway, I'm on 9.13 of the add-on. So I don't know why that is. And even the picture, of course, that's really old. It doesn't matter. I'm just wondering if there's... that's a different node. Yeah, these are all kind of old. I updated on mine, have the node status. So I wonder, Raspberry, I don't know if you answered this already. Toggling the show node status. Maybe it's out of sync. Yeah, so that would be one thing I would say too, is toggle that, which you sound like you might probably have, but give that a shot and then let us know. Because here's the thing, like it sounds like it's going to be specific to your install or specific to your setup, and I don't know what else would cause that to. I mean, I don't have any. Show palette sidebar, event log, action list. There's nothing there. Configuration nodes. Ew. Don't do that. Yeah, I'm looking here, and other than settings, I don't see anything at all that would do anything. Unless one of your nodes is causing some sort of issue. I mean, we all don't have the same nodes installed probably. So I just wonder if there's a, well, that's, I don't know what this does. I don't know what node this is, but if you look under nodes and just search for status and then drop this node, the status thing down, I don't know what the status node does, but maybe that's disabled. Mine is not. I mean, I'm grasping at straws here because I don't know what else would be different on your setup. You tried just about everything up to uninstalling Node-RED and reinstalling Node-RED. So did you, yeah, check that status node thing. I don't know what status node is. That's just a debug node. Make sure you select all the nodes. Status node is for capturing the status messages that various nodes emit. Here, your status node is set to target all nodes. That means it will be triggered by. Okay, so maybe that's just a node itself, like status nodes. Yeah, that's just a standard node. So what I said earlier was wrong. So you can, just out of curiosity, Raspberry, you can try this for now to get an idea. So Playroom light on, and when you hover over this, you can see in the background, it's kind of highlighting which one. So if I click on this and I just say done, I don't know what the output does. I guess you output this to a debug. How do I get rid of that chunk? Yeah, I'm just curious now what the status node does. I guess I'll just output this to a debug and flip the light. And look. Oh, message payload undefined. Am I supposed to set something? Yeah, I don't even know what this does. I'd have to read on what status node does. Where was I reading that? Huh. I don't even know I was reading that. Oh, dummy binary sensor. Oh. So Jaja, tell me real quick what you were trying to do real fast. I've slept since our discussion, so I apologize for that. You want a dummy binary sensor, but I don't know that's going to, I forget why you're looking for that. Toggle. So you could maybe use toggle as your, maybe text number, drop down counter timer. It's just frustrating to figure out what is working or not without knowing if the node is working. Yeah, I don't know, Raspberry. That sounds weird. Do you have a plugin on your browser that's doing something weird? It sounds very environment specific. So that's what I'm curious about. If there's something in your environment that's doing something. Because I don't know. Most of us are seeing it on there. That'll be something I'll have to do some investigation offline and just see if I can figure that out. I did. Oh, so you have this thing where you're trying to set a, so Jaga is trying to, the only way he can trigger the SOS button for his alarm is setting a binary sensor value. How do we help him set up a binary sensor? Or I don't understand why that's the case. Alarmo, what is that a, oh, here we go. integration for the alarm control domain. It allows to combine existing sensors for creating a security system. Integration is compared with a manual alarm. Custom component, features fully component, blah, blah, blah. So updating usage. Click to show. Okay, so following alarm describes operational state of the alarm and provides simplified something, something, something. Alarm, disarm, arming, and armed, triggered. So are you using the alarm panel card at all to deal with this? I would think it would have something on it that would give you the ability to do what you're trying to do. Alarmo only takes binary sensor. Yeah, so tell me about this. What is... So you need a button, but the alarm card should do all this stuff for you. Alarm, arm home, arm night, alarm custom, bypass, or arm and disarm. And you're talking about an SOS button. If arming of an area fails, the arming will be aborted. The available arm modes are determined from the areas. Okay, so currently Alarmo supports sensor as a binary sensor. We'll check the device class of each sensor and only support sensors that are related to security. Available sensors show up automatically. So which one of these are you trying to find out? You're trying to create a binary sensor? Okay, so that's something that probably has to have happen in a template, right? So if I go to my sensors, give me a second here. Actually, it's under my configuration, I think. I believe I have some binary sensors. Okay, so you're probably going to have to do something like a template where so I'm under the binary sensors section. Hold on a second. I got to make sure there's not something here. Okay, we're fine. So if you look at the, over there, oh, that's wrong. If we look at this, you're going to have to go into configuration.yaml under binary sensor, and you're going to have to create some sort of binary sensor this way, I believe. And then once you create the binary sensor here, then you can reference this. So let's say you're going to create it would be a template of some sort. I'm guessing right now, right? Sensors. And I'm not sure how you would, hold on, let me just make sure that's right. So this is all under binary sensors. Platform ping, platform sensor. If you're saying you need, and this would be Alarmo something, name of the sensor, but it's saying, Alarmo says it can only work with binary sensors. And let's call this motion for sake of anything else. And then the value template would be something like maybe this. I'm guessing it's some of this now, so don't go and say this is the way it's going to work. Yeah, see, this is the part where I get a little confused. Like, I don't know where to put in the value template here. But it's going to be something like this. You're going to have to create the binary sensor in your settings. So you need one that'll show on or off based on input Boolean. Yeah, so that would be like a motion class or something like that. So if we look at Home Assistant here, binary sensor. And you configure it. So you have these options. So you would create binary sensors. They're displayed in them, blah, 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 blah. Following device classes are supported. So battery, cold, door, garage door. You could use one of these on or off. They're binary sensors, so they're gonna be on or off no matter what. And depending on what you're using it for, you could just name it one of these classes. I'm just not sure how you specify these. Modify in the customize section. Customize. That's customize. That's not what you want. Yeah, so does anybody know how to create a dummy binary sensor? Okay, well, he said, Jaga says he got it. All right. So you'd have to work as a template, binary sensor. Here we go. That's what I want right there. So it allows you to create entities which derive their values from other data. This is done by specifying templates. So you could set this state of you could create a helper, like an input text, and if the input text equals something, you could set the binary sensor to do something. That's state-based, trigger-based configuration. Rate limiting, storing webhook. Where the heck is binary sensor? Anyway, if you read through this whole integrations thing, Jaga, I apologize if I'm saying that wrong. That might give you some options on how you do the binary sensors in there. But I think you can get what you need by creating a template and then either using a helper value or whatever to do what you want to do. And you can even specify it here under alarm control panel. All right. Yep. So Johnny, I've got to run too. So I appreciate y'all watching today. Jaga, if you need more help, just let me know. I'll do what I can. It's not trivial, or it's not trivial. It looks like it can be done just using templates and whatnot. But for that, you'll have to experiment a little bit. Again, I appreciate everyone watching the live stream today. I hope it was helpful. I know some of the stuff I cover is covered by other folks, but I like to play with it, and I hope it's at least a little bit entertaining and helpful for y'all as well. If you're not subscribed, the usual, hit that button, and you'll be notified when I live stream and drop videos and all that kind of stuff. You'll have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you on the next video and all that stuff. Oh, and I'm in Discord if you need any help afterwards, later on. I answer these things as best I can with the time I have in between making videos and doing live streams and family stuff and work and everything else. So y'all enjoy your weekend. Hope it's warm for some of y'all. Some of y'all said it's going to rain, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.